Good morning. I am going to convene the meeting for the December 20th meeting of the Personnel Committee. I am Lorna Wade, the chairperson.
Mary Beth Marziotti.
Anne Marie Gray.
Rose Volka.
Joan Godecki, clerk.
We'll begin by accepting the minutes from the October 18th, 2016 meeting. I'm hoping that everybody had a chance to look over these minutes.
I know I did when they first came out.
I need either,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written from October 18th meeting.
I'll second it.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? As there's no opposition, or corrections, the minutes stand as they are reflected here. We'll move out of order as Mr. Balcones is not here yet. There is no correspondence. Old business, performance appraisals. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Okay. I will then set a meeting up with Mr. Balcones and Peter Fox to review the evaluations as they've been presented. I would like to personally thank those employees who take the time to do self-reflection, because I think that's important in your job performance, and for the supervisors in responding, and likewise with the performance evaluations, so that they're appreciated, that they were turned in by the Personnel Committee.
I agree.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Apologize for the chill in here. It's a little cold.
We skipped over you, but we're going to go right back to you, Mr. Balcones. So you're here to talk about the alcohol and drug policy.
I am. So the employee handbook, first of all, references drug and alcohol policy. And so the policy is not set forth in the handbook, which, as you know, is adopted through town meeting, but it does make reference to the fact that there's a drug and alcohol policy. So as a result of the passage of the ballot question number 4, I had some conversations with our legal counsel, and legal counsel recommended that the town adopt a policy that prohibits the possession, conveyance, distribution, manufacture, sale, or use of any illegal drug or controlled substance, including marijuana, while on town property or while operating town vehicles or equipment, or on town business. So the policy that's before you has been approved by the Board of Selectmen, and so I would ask that you respectfully approve it. The essence, again, is to include marijuana as a prohibited product for town employees when they are on duty.
So this has gone through legal counsel, you said, and it is legal to put in the stipulation even for medical use?
It is.
It is? Okay.
It is.
That was my only question.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in there, and we're going to take the strictest interpretation of the law, which is what the intent of this document is. We want to send a message out to our employees that use of any type of marijuana products while they're working for the town is strictly prohibited. If someone wants to challenge it down the road, so be it. We'll have a policy in place that at least governs the actions of the town.
Okay.
Any questions on it that I can answer?
So there is new language in this policy?
Yes.
Will that be boldface typed
No.
so that the employees can note the changes?
We're going to distribute this policy to the employees. It's interesting, when I went through and I looked to see if there was an acknowledgement similar to what we have on the second page, I couldn't find one from the existing policy. Matter of fact, I couldn't even find an existing policy. So there's a reference in the employee handbook to drug and alcohol policy,
But there was
but I
never
couldn't
any-
find it.
So this is all new language?
I couldn't find it. And this is what I consider to be boilerplate language, with the exception of the marijuana policy.
Okay.
But the fact that the town has reference to a policy in its handbook, and I could find no record of it, nor could my staff. You do have a copy of it. Well, then it's not widely distributed. And we looked. But the intent of this is to provide a copy to all employees so that they can acknowledge it and sign off on it, and a copy will go in their file.
Okay. Are there any questions other than the one I posed?
No.
No.
Okay. Now, oh yeah, I do have one. As far as using marijuana for medical purposes, I mean, there was something in the paper about the chief and his police officers, and if anybody came to work, you know, the termination could follow. However, if someone had to use it, they would probably have to inform their employer. And with the doctor's note, would that be approvable then?
Yeah, what we want to do is we want to make sure that someone's not impaired when they're on the job. If they have a medical prescription to use it while they're off duty, then certainly the town doesn't want to get in the way of that. But what we want to ensure that employees that are working for the town are not impaired while they're on duty.
Well, you know of the case where, most recently, where that man from Webster was actually using marijuana and he killed that police officer. That could happen with an individual, a police officer off duty. What would happen then? Well, he's not.
And it would be subject to whatever the courts decide.
Okay.
So you'd like a motion to accept this
Yeah, I
policy?
would.
Okay.
I would, and we want, like I said, the language I think is pretty standard.
I'll make a motion to accept the updated drug and alcohol policy.
Motion is made by Mrs. Marciotti. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Anne Marie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So the motion has passed, and does that do what you want?
It does do what I want, thank you.
Okay. Let's see. The new business that we have at present is looking at our meeting dates for next year. If you look at the schedule, we are still scheduled for 9 a.m., the same room, and we're still on the third Tuesday of the month. And 9 a.m. meets your needs, Mr. Malconis, if you need
That's
to speak to
perfect.
us?
Perfect.
My motion to
Accept this?
Accept that.
All right. Motion made by Mrs. Mazziotti to accept the schedule of meetings. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Rosemary seconded it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the schedule has been passed, and I will sign it and give it to you, Joan, after the meeting. And there is no other business. Oh, you do?
I
I'm
do have an
sorry.
update. Just ask you to take one of those and pass it down. So the document that you have in front of you for the public that might be watching is an update from our Labor Council, and that's Merrick O'Connell. And we had been watching closely the changes in the Department of Labor concerning the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is federal legislation that mandates overtime for employees that work in excess of 40 hours a week. And there are a number of different pieces of that law. And one of the pieces of that law was to be taking effect this month, and it was going to raise the salary threshold for white-collar employees or clerical employees from $23,660 a year to $47,476 a year. And what it basically said that means is that any white-collar employee who meets certain requirements under the law would have to be paid that $47,476 per year, or they would be subject to mandatory time and a half overtime for any hours worked in excess of 40 hours a week. And we have a number of employees who fit that category, who don't make $47,476. So the Department of Labor, Federal Department of Labor, had prepared this, and they were going to implement it, and that didn't happen. And the reason why it didn't happen is there was a ruling by the federal courts that the Department of Labor exceeded its authority and ignored congressional approval when it adopted the new salary thresholds. So it didn't get adopted. The good news is we didn't do anything. So there are a number of employers, this affects both public and private sector employers. There are a number of employers that raise their employees' salary in anticipation of this law going into effect. So you can imagine the ramifications of taking someone from $23,000 to $47,000, and then the law doesn't pass. So we're watching this. We're aware of it. We will monitor it going forward, but there's no action that's required at this time. And I'm glad that the courts ruled that this exceeded the authority of the Department of Labor. I really
That's
think it
double the
was-
salary.
Yeah, and the Fair Labor Standards Act is one of those laws that's been hanging around for my whole career, and I've been doing this for over 30 years, and it's always kind of there in the background. And it seemed to be an extreme measure to basically take it and double the salary requirements, but it didn't happen.
It would have really done havoc to town government
Our town
budgets.
budget.
Town budgets, but it also, it would, particularly people who cover meetings. So in my instance, I'm not entitled to overtime no matter what, because I meet additional requirements under the law, so I can work 60 hours a week and I'm still entitled to my salary. However, someone who's more of an administrative position that may cover evening meetings, previously they weren't entitled to overtime for that additional work, but under the law, if they didn't make the $47,476 per year, they would have been mandatorily subject to overtime requirements. And the impact of this on Dudley would have been major, but it would have been across the board for all employers, regardless of whether they're public or private sector.
Thank you for the information.
You're welcome.
If there's no other new business, I would entertain a motion, well, with a reminder that our next meeting will be on January 17th, 2017 at 9 PM in this room.
9 a.m.
Pardon me?
a.m.
AM, yes, not PM. 9 AM,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you. So as there is no other business, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting today.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much for the hard work that you've done this year for the town of Dudley, and that your commitment to volunteering for these positions. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm sure the town does also.